I'm Renee Jayne, here to illuminate truth, health, and guide you home to yourself. And today I want to talk with you about this connection, this mind-body connection that we talk about so much is probably overkill, but there's a different spin on it that I think is so important, and that is that what we do not deal with emotionally and mentally and even spiritually, it manifests as disease or illness in our physical body. And this has been the work that I have been privileged to be able to do with so many people for over 12 years. And the reason why is because it's been part of my story. And I'm not going to go into my story today, but what I am going to do is I am going to share with you a specific tool that I utilize with my private coaching clients upon starting our work together. And many of them have been doing similar things. Maybe you have been doing similar things, but I hope that this provides some kind of a little bit of a spin on this that allows you to go deeper. So when we start thinking about the reality, this simple reality, but like big idea, that our thoughts, our mentality, our emotions, whether we express those emotions or we bury them deep down inside or numb them out, that they could have anything to do with our physical health, for some people that's a mind-blowing idea. It's mind-blowing. And I hear this all the time when I have clients who come to me and they say, I want to work with you because I'm starting to realize that I believe a lot of my health, my physical manifestations, my health issues are really because I haven't dealt with blank. I still have this to work through. And the template that I want to share with you, I'm going to give you in just a moment. It's just going to walk you through it. But before I do, I want to give some context. And the context is really the stress state of humanity. I mean, we could probably argue that humanity has always had some kind of stress state, right? I mean, I think we can all agree on that. But we also have access to more media than ever before. We have access, even if you're not on a lot of media all the time, you're still seeing it. You're still being inundated with it. A lot of the stresses, in fact, are not just from the noise. They're unseen stresses that live inside our water supply, stressors that are in our environment, in the air that we breathe, in the food that we eat. They're in the things that we inject into our bodies. They're the things that we put on our skin. The stressors that are the unspoken conflict that happens within relationships. They're the money stressors. They're the stresses around financial investing, what the market's doing right now. There's these stressors that have everything to do with our career or our purpose or not feeling necessarily fulfilled in our life. So I could go on, right? And I think you probably could fill in the blank of what you're stressed about, and there'd be a list. The difference that I want to get to today is that we have something in our body we're familiar with, but maybe we don't fully understand it just yet, and it's called our nervous system. And our nervous system has a capacity to hold stress. In fact, we can thank our nervous system right now for having this capacity to hold stress. But based on our experience in our life, based on maybe old traumatic experiences, based on anything that's happened to us recently, scares, health issues, whatever that stress is that I brought to your attention a moment ago, if our nervous system doesn't feel like there's capacity, we won't be able to hold that stress in a healthy way. And so what we often do is then we go seek things out to distract or to numb or to feel better. This is a part of our human nature. And our mind wanders to other things. We start thinking about other people's stuff, get involved in their drama. Maybe we start trying to take action and control situations because we're worried. Maybe we eat the whole tub of ice cream. We drink a lot of beverages to feel better on a regular basis. We take the drugs. We do whatever we can. And if we're not even judging those behaviors, and I don't want you to judge yourself because I don't know that that's helpful. It's just more about a curiosity of what have you done in the past when there's been a lot of stress. What I want to invite you to is that the place of healing is in the present moment. And I know that sounds cliche, like a quote you read somewhere on Instagram. But the reality is that if we're in the past or we're in the future, then we are basically trying to control the situation. And nobody lives in the present moment all the time. But the way we want to get to is we want to get to being present more with the reality of the situation without trying to distract, numb, or avoid it. And the more we can widen that gap between how long we allow ourselves to stay in reality, the healthier we're going to be. I get to help people make this connection between their emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical bodies. And this is the holistic system. This is when we look at the whole body. We're not just looking at, when somebody's like, you have anxiety, and then the big companies come in and dish out all the pills and say, oh, well, here, this will help you. Well, it's a Band-Aid, really, because it's never getting us to the root of why you have that anxiety, why your nervous system is still hanging on to that form of anxiety, and then what's the pathway for you to actually move through it and out. And in my experience of doing this work with so many people and myself, is that when we move through the pathway of anxiety and we start to understand why we are in that relationship with stress or anxiousness, this is actually where we start to awaken to our highest self. This is where we clear the channel, so to speak, from God, universe, and we start to feel more fulfilled in our life. But for long-term use, I don't see it. I just don't see it. When I work with clients, sure, I have medical intuition. Sure, I have wisdom that I impart. But my biggest goal is always to show you how to use your own. You actually have your own intuition. You are a self-healer. You don't need to have degrees or tons of education because it's your body. And sometimes for a person who's just starting out, they don't even recognize how much wisdom they already have. The biggest thing is that we have so much wisdom about our body, but we have been in so much of a stress response that we have almost trained ourselves to ignore it. We have trained ourselves to avoid looking at it. And when the physical body is manifesting with pain or disease or issues or any kind of illness or autoimmune, I could go on, often it's rooted in something that we're not looking at emotionally or mentally. So there's a percentage of people who are going to take this information and they're going to start to say, okay, I need to dive in a little bit deeper. And then there's a percentage of people who just tune it out. And what I want to do is just let you know, the people who tune it out, that it's okay. Because this kind of work can only really be done with the individual when it's like divine timing. It's really all about timing. So let's not judge the person who's tuning it out, because I bet you have somebody in your life who're like, they need to watch this video. Well, maybe they do. Maybe you send it to them. Maybe you throw it in the trash. Maybe you decide this is the day that I actually start to make those connections between my emotional self, my mental health, and my physical body. But it is really about the timing, and you'll know because you've already spent 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40 maybe, where you have been doing all this work on yourself and you still feel like maybe you are spinning your wheels. And it's mostly because we need to come back to this one core principle to like get things started. It's almost like opening, a better analogy is like putting the key in the door, and we start to slowly turn it. The door is not even open yet, but we're just going to put the key in. And the key is that if you're not okay, it's because you're spending too much of your time in the past or in the future. There's too much of your time and energy being dedicated to worry, to stress, to thoughts that bring up more stress, to thoughts that bring up more anxiety. There's too much of your time being directed towards blaming other people, worrying or blaming other people for stuff that is their business that's actually not even yours. Another reason might be that we're in a lot of fantasy. This is, to me, an addiction of humanity. It just is. But we fantasize, we hope, we wish, we are in the story, we're trying to solve the problem before the thing even happened. And the call today is to accept reality. And how do we accept reality? Well, accepting reality means being present with our situation, being present in the moment with the reality, being present in the moment with the pain that we might be experiencing, being present in the moment with the uncomfortableness of all these feelings that are coming up that sometimes feel so overwhelming to us, being present in the moment with the reality of the hard situation that you might be facing that you don't have answers to, that might feel so incredibly uncertain. And then the reality of it is that instead of reaching outside of ourselves to try to numb it or to try to fix it or to try to distract away from it, that instead we see if we can just be in it. It's almost like if you stepped into quicksand and your feet are stuck and you realize like if you fight, you're gonna just keep sinking. And so you just stay and you decide to chill the best you can and relax the best you can because you know that you can't fight it anymore. Now, it doesn't mean you need to do that for hours because the reality is that most of us can't. And the reason we can't is because our nervous system capacities have been greatly impacted by the stresses of the world. And so a lot of times for an individual who I meet, they don't necessarily feel safe in their nervous system, or their capacity to feel safety is limited, or there's a threshold. And again, this isn't bad or good or right or wrong. It isn't like, oh, you have a better nervous system than your neighbor. Like, no one's comparing here. This is a moment-to-moment situation for all of us as humanity where we're facing this reality of that our nervous systems are designed to hold us, thankfully, they do a pretty great job, I'd say, through stressful situations. And when we are recognizing that we can't be present with ourselves for more than just a few moments or a few minutes, what it's just showing you is that your nervous system capacity is there. That's just where it is. And so the goal would be to expand a little bit more. Expand your capacity to hold more in your nervous system, hold more of being present with a reality without trying to change it or fix it. And so this requires trust, and this is where your work begins, because sometimes when life feels so overwhelming or so uncertain or things are out of control in various areas of your life, the last thing that we feel like we can do is trust. But it also means that you need to be aware of something really important. If your mind is not trusting and your body, also known as your nervous system in this case, doesn't feel safe, then you are at war with yourself. Your mind and body are at war. One doesn't trust, one doesn't feel safe. And if that's happening, who's going to lead? Who's going to lead? Your higher self is the one that's listening to this video. Your higher self, your relationship with your higher self. So what I want to do is I want to give you a quick strategy. And the strategy is to be able to begin a deeper observation of your thoughts. Because when you can start to observe your thoughts actually do create your reality. And if you can begin to start to shift your thoughts, become aware of your thoughts, then shift your thoughts, then it starts to change your reality. So the first step is to pay attention to the thoughts that come in. And immediate thought, like first thought, pay attention. What is that thought? And then to question it. Is this thought real? Is this true? Is this even true? Question it. Be that person who is the questioner, the devil's advocate, so to speak. Is this even true? And the moment you can start to do that, I mean, I know it sounds so simple, but we have a lot of thoughts throughout the day. I don't even know how many come through, but hundreds, millions, who knows? Like, there's so many thoughts that come through. And if we have all these thoughts coming through and we're not even aware of where they're going and they're just kind of here and here and here and here, then we're not in control of our being. And we're not in control of many things in our life, let's face it. But we can control what we allow to manifest as deeper and deeper thought. And so the only thing that we need to do here is to just become aware of what are the thoughts coming in. And not even in a way that's judgmental. I know that that's hard because we're human and we judge. We're going to judge all day, every day, as part of being human. This is our nature. But what we want to do is take a step back for a moment and see if we can get a little bit more curious and say, that's interesting. I'm having this thought a lot. Is it even true? Do I really know it's true? Thank you, Byron Katie, for that line of questioning if you know her work. And the thing about the thought is that we're often using it as some kind of distraction technique so that way we can worry more, or that we can go back into the guilt more. Because we have this ego, our egoic mind. It's part of being human. We're not here to demolish the ego or to shame it or to shame this part of ourselves. It's just an awareness. The ego gives us awareness. And this part of our mind thinking egoic self is like, ooh, what can I give you over here so you can avoid and you can distract from the work that you're actually really here to do, which is heal, which is to recover yourself, which is self-expression, which is to lead other people, which is to be your most fulfilled, connected, highest self, so that way you can impact the people around you. And so if we keep these thoughts coming in and they keep distracting us, then it's really distracting us from what we're here to do. So we can either get distracted in someone else's business and avoid our own, or we can start to become very aware of the thoughts that we have coming in. And when we can admit that the thoughts that we have coming in might be things that are causing us more and more stress, then we can change. We can track those thoughts. We can become the observer of those thoughts. We can become the interviewer who starts to analyze the thoughts somewhat. You don't have to go into great detail, but I would bet that you can start to trace down this root system of like, wow, I've had these thoughts before. These thoughts are about X, Y, and Z from my past. They didn't really serve me. Am I going to be able to do anything about it right now by thinking about it? Maybe not. Probably not. Why do I keep having these thoughts? Maybe there's something I need to deal with, but you know what? In the meantime, when we have these thoughts, we want to start to separate them out of what thoughts are causing me stress. What thoughts are leading to more and more anxiousness or anxiety in my life? And why am I continuously allowing myself to go down the rabbit hole of more and more of these thoughts? So if I get into other people's business, then I actually am giving up God. If I'm getting into other people's business, then I'm giving up the universe's ability to come in and orchestrate healing. And so what we do next is then we start to shift and pattern interrupt. When the thoughts start to come in and we start to become aware of them and that they're very stressful thoughts or they're causing us stress, we can say, oh, stop, or not true, or I'm done. Some kind of gracious, abrupt stop. Gracious in the sense that you don't want to shame yourself for having these thoughts. And abrupt in the sense of almost like you realize, oh shoot, there's a stop sign I need to stop at and I didn't see it, and the car comes to a screeching halt, and then you take a breath and you realize, okay, all is well. All is well. And now we pivot. We're going to just turn over here and we're going to go on our merry way, and we're not going to continue these thoughts. Now, it doesn't mean the thoughts won't come up again, because they will. But the goal here is to understand something really important. Your egoic mind has been having this constant stream of thoughts for a really long time in your life. And the moment you start paying attention to those thoughts, the moment you start giving any awareness to what those thoughts are, it almost is like you see it. You see it. It's like, oh my God, it's so much. And it actually seems like it will become more and more insidious, and the thoughts will come even stronger at the beginning, because your ego is like, I'm not going out without a fight. No, I want to drive. I want to be in the passenger, or I don't want to be in the passenger seat of the car. I want to be behind the wheel. And your higher self is like, no, I hear you thoughts. I know you're going to keep coming. Hi, I see you. Get back into the passenger seat. I'm driving. And eventually, after you go through this practice, and you take your time, and you start to learn to be in reality with your body and the feelings that are coming through, going for more walks, taking more breaths, taking minutes just to be alone with yourself in the quiet, maybe a little bit more constructive thinking, right? Understanding what's going on in there. Then you start to widen this gap of how long it takes you to move from stressful thoughts to, we'll call them productive thoughts. Thoughts of gratitude, thoughts of joy, thoughts of what you want to create, thoughts of like, what's my next right action? Sometimes it's like a prayer. Dear God, dear universe, show me my next right action. Please guide my steps today. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? How can I be of service? Some of this has come from things like the Course in Miracles and other random things I've picked up over the years. But these are part of the pattern interrupt where we can move to the new thing. And this isn't like okay, I'm going to do this and then one day I will never have negative thoughts again. No. It doesn't work that way. But it actually works in a way that's more beautiful, I believe, is because you start to realize more quickly what thoughts are coming in that don't serve you. And you start to understand, oh, wow, I'm having that because this fear is here. And when we see that the fear is here, we start to understand that on the other side of that fear is where we source our highest power, our highest sense of self, and we align with our higher power, because that's where we're actually afraid of doing something over here and we're ready to step forward into the new thing. And I might be going a little too far, but if we can just come back to the very simple process. I know I say it's simple, but it can be. And it also can be one that challenges you, and just be okay with both. Every day is different. So number one is we start to notice the thought, and the first thought we have, we question it, and we say, is this true? We become the observer of our thoughts. And then as the thoughts start to come in and we start to observe them, maybe we write them down in a journal, and we start to understand which of these thoughts are causing me stress, or which of these thoughts are stressed thoughts. Which ones lead to more and more anxiety? And then as we start to do that, we start to parse out like, okay, well, those thoughts aren't working for me anymore, and I'm going to stop it. I'm going to see if I can pivot, and I'm going to try to have a new thought. And if we're having trouble doing that, just know that you're not alone. That's just part of this process. Don't give up. Keep going. Get help, get support if you need to. I'm a holistic nutrition practitioner, a medical intuitive, a somatic life coach. These are things that I do with people all the time. You can always reach out in the below information to reach out to me. And there's so many resources. Just know that you're not alone, ultimately. That's what I want to convey to you, is that you don't give up on this work, because it's kind of like the entryway. As we put that key and we start to turn it. Once we turn it, and we start to really unravel that we can direct our thoughts, we can control our thoughts, then it starts to open up the whole door to self-healing and how powerful you really are in your body. All right, with that said, if you like this video, please like it and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, just click that little bell down below. And if you have thoughts on this or comments and your own experience, I'd love to hear and chat with you. So leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video.